Rui Cardozo. This is Barb. For those who never heard of CivTech, we're going to go through for those who know CivTech, maybe some Q&A as well. Just note that we're not the challenge sponsor, so we won't be able to answer all the questions about the challenges. If you have any questions specific on Scotland, because they need to be open for Edinburgh, he's going to start explaining why we're doing CivTech.
Drive, daring and innovations. There's really two aspects to what we do. We are about delivering better public. I don't know if any of you have been involved in public sector procurements before, but you can often find that they come from a place with specs that take a year to write, 6 months to procure, and 12 months to roll out. And when it comes particularly to digital services, those timescales, the technologies are redundant by the time you've got to the end of the process. But how can you procure what you don't know exists? How do you go from a specification that looks something like this to a specification that looks something more like this? Rui is going to set out how at CivTech we deliver that.
So this is called the CivTech innovation flow. It's very colorful. It's very colorful, but I think it grabs the attention. That's why we're keeping this. So the stage that we're at, it's the first stage over there, the challenges. We've been, for the past 6 to 8 months, we've been around public sector, speaking to many organizations to select the 10 best challenges that we could find to launch for CivTech 3. So now, since last week, we put the challenges out for the public. Anyone can apply, and emphasis on anyone. It can be a sole trader, it can be someone that isn't even a registered business yet, it could be a group of students, or it can be an established company, a startup, an SME, a big company. It's an open procurement exercise for everyone, because we're really looking for the best ideas. And the best ideas can come from anyone and from any walk of life. Then on the 2nd of July, application period is finished, so we'll expect to see all of your applications by that time. Then the selection process starts. So this is a 2 to 3 month process where we go from 6 to 1 company per challenge. At the very first stage, you will get assessed by our scorecard, and the top 6 companies per challenge will be invited for an interview. So this part isn't assessed, but it's to give us a bit more information before we select the top 3 companies going through the exploration stage. So once we have 3 companies, the exploration stage starts. This is going to be next door at Codebase. We have a building up and office space up in level L. And that's for 3 weeks where you work with a challenge sponsor. And this is kind of to validate the initial idea that you had with the actual client. So we'll be working with them. And the key thing for these 3 weeks is to listen. They are your client. They're going to be essential in deciding which company goes forward. So you have 3 weeks to work with them. And if you listen, you'll bring your proposition closer to what they're actually looking for. But there's another side to the exploration stage as well, which is the culture. Many times in procurement, we select a company based on a paper application, but we have no idea about the culture of the people that we're going to be working with. So we're trying to change that. And in 3 weeks, if you work with someone and you see that there's a connection there, probably that's good news for the result of the end challenge at the end of the process. Then at the end of exploration stage, every company that was selected will be invited to pitch their final solution. Now, this doesn't have to be the initial application that you came through. We hope it isn't, because we hope that it's evolved over the period of the CivTech innovation flow. So you'll pitch, we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes plus Q&A, and out of those pitches, we'll select the company that is going to, in our opinion, achieve more of the outcomes that we're looking for the particular challenge. Then, as you all know, we have 10 challenges out. At the accelerator stage, which is also next door, we will have selected 1 company per challenge. So this is going to be a 3-4 month intensive period of development, as you will be mostly familiar with the accelerator propositions. You will get paid £20,000 for the 3 months, and you'll have the collaboration from the challenge sponsors, the citizens, and the innovation centres where relevant. So innovation centres are spread around Scotland, and then there's, for example, the Data Lab, there's the Sensors Innovation Centre, which looks after sensor technology, there's the oil and gas, and etc. So we'll give you the contacts for the relevant innovation centres as you go through the process. The challenge sponsor is key to all of this because they are effectively the product owner. For all the proposition for CivTech, you will keep all the IP and all the equity of your product, but you're still trying to appease your client and you're still trying to deliver something that they can use. So challenge sponsor, crucial. It'll be the one that decides if you go forward with the project. It'll be the one that decides if you get a further contract at the end of this. So key component of this. And when relevant, the citizen will play a role. When it's a citizen-facing solution, which we have a few for CivTech 3, we will bring the citizen groups around so they can test the solutions, they can give their opinions, and you can then iterate based on that feedback. A key component of the accelerator is also the workshop system. Now, this is mandatory workshop systems, and you'll have a chance to speak to some of the companies that have already been through the process to talk about the value of these workshops. They're not all mandatory for everyone, but they're almost all mandatory for everyone. So there's a few, introduction workshops that if you can prove that you have that relevant experience, will give you a pass, but most of them are mandatory because in our opinion, it's a key component to creating a good product because your challenge sponsors will be in some of these workshops as well. And if you're there working together with them, it creates a working relationship that you wouldn't if you don't come to the studio. Another key component of the studio is the visits. We are, as been mentioned around public sector, we're the flagship program of Scottish Government. Because of that, we have quite a lot of people coming in through our doors, decision makers, directors, ministers, CEOs, walking through our door just to see what we're doing. So that's an opportunity for you to gather those contacts and those networks going forward. We have a quote from one of our beta companies in one of our videos, and we've had many chats about this. They have been a company for a while, but during the 3 months of Accelerator, they created a network of contacts within the public sector they could never imagine, just for being there all the time and speaking to people and creating these connections. At the end of the Accelerator, each company is expected to have a minimum viable product to present. Now this, depending on the challenge, can be 10% of the full product or can be almost the full thing, but you're expected to demonstrate something that works on demo day. So demo day is going to be in February next year and is the event at the end of Accelerator Day where we invite people from around public sector and we give you, the participants, the chance to pitch what you've created over the period of the Accelerator. So when you think about some of the challenges, if you're solving it for one area of public sector, chances are there's other clients around public sector that could use this as well. So this is your chance to gather a few potential clients going forward. As I mentioned before, you keep all the IP and all the equity. We do keep the right to then use the solution that you've created for free in perpetuity as the funders of this innovation. So £3,000 at the first stage, £20,000 at the second stage. You are then left with a pot of up to £250,000, including the £23,000 to negotiate with a challenge sponsor. How much is it that is going to take you to take that MVP to a full commercial product that then can be deployed around Scotland? So that's that period here. When we created CivTech, one of the things that we thought about, and the last hypothesis that we're still trying to test 3 rounds in, and hopefully this year will be the one that we prove this, is if you're solving a public sector challenge in Scotland, chances are somewhere else in the world has the same problem. So could we potentially be sitting on a gold mine of economic opportunities and exporting opportunities to the rest of the world by acting as the country that acts first on public sector technology? So in some broad lines, that's what we do at CivTech. I think if there's any questions in terms of the process, I could answer them quickly.
I have a question. Will all of the challenges continue through, and will all of the challenges be presented at the end of this process?
If all going well. So
If
there's not a viable solution at any of these stages, we'll cut the contract because there's no point continuing. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened yet. So far, the 2 cohorts that we had, all challenges went from end to end to demo day. About 90% of them got post-demo day to a follow-on contract to then implementation. So your chances are good because we're turning around the old proposition of accelerators. Instead of you going in, I have a good idea, give me some money, here's some equity, and then you develop the idea, look up and try to find clients. We're giving you the client, we're giving you the market. You just come up with the technology and the idea to solve it. So chances of success are very high. So there's many breakpoints along the way because we don't want to over-risk things for public sector. But if you get through them, and you only need your work to get through them, chances are you will see your product then implemented at the other end.
Am I correct to understand that the first stage, that will be 3 winners per each challenge?
Sorry?
On the first stage, the exploration stage?
Yeah, 3 companies per challenge.
Okay.
So the challenge sponsor will work with 3 different companies for those 3 weeks, and then all 3 have a chance to pitch, and then we'll select one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rui, could you just comment on the timescales, please?
Yeah, there's another slide, Peter. So, as I mentioned, the proposition, IP, equity, all for you, co-location space, so you have office space whenever you want, next door, again, a code base during the accelerator period, workshops and contracts worth up to 250,000. So these are the timescales. Applications close on the 2nd of July, so make sure you've submitted it by then. We really cannot accept any sort of late applications because it's procurement. Then selection stage, the initial selection will be from the 2nd to the 10th of August. In the middle of days, there will be the interviews that I mentioned, the 6 interviews. Then the exploration stage, 21st of August until 7th of September. But the actual pitches start on the 5th of September up until the 14th. Then the accelerator, 8th of October until 5th of February. Demo day is booked now for 6th of February. And then post-accelerator stage, depending on the challenge, but it starts straight after demo day. So, yeah.
So
on to Barbara.
For today, we thought we would try and put together a set of tips if you're thinking of applying and what to focus on. First thing we would say is we're going to do a quick run through of the challenges in a moment. Realistically, in a couple of minutes, we can't really cover the ground that you need to answer any kind of detailed questions about the challenges. So first thing is, do Google CivTech and you'll get our Atlassian page will come up. If you haven't already, look at the detail on the challenges on that website. You will find a lot of information on there, so we thought we'd try and give some tips in terms of how to what to focus on in your application. And the first thing that we'd highlight is, as Rui mentioned, what we're looking for at the first stage of your ideas, but we want to see ideas from people that have got the skills and experience to deliver on those ideas. And one thing to bear in mind is you might have a great idea, you might have be really keen on applying, but you might be thinking there's parts of the skills and experience, if you're just an individual, there's other skills and experience that you will need to build the right team to deliver on it. At this stage, we still want to encourage you to bring that your application forwards, but what we would seek to see is that by the time you're pitching at the end of the exploration stage, you have built that team that you need in order to deliver in the accelerator stage. And I'd also flag, use tonight as an opportunity. If you're somebody that's here thinking that I need some other skills and experience to really deliver on this challenge, chat to the other people that are here, chat to the people that are interested in the challenges that you're interested in. That's a big part of what we want to encourage this evening. Sure.
Sorry, do you ever sort of put people together pre-exploration stage if you sort of think, well, those 2 people have done something similar but it's complementary?
We think you'll be the best. In terms of putting people together, matchmaking people, we think that you're probably the best people to decide who is suited to working with you. That's yeah. We want to kind of provide spaces for people to network and meet people, but yeah, we wouldn't think of doing anything that formally. That said, we're proactively encouraging things like we've got a great relationship with Code Clan. So on the last cohort, Code Clan came up with their lecturers and some of their students and did a kind of a sort of a speed dating type thing, going around the different people doing challenges, and the people that were, the participants told them what skills they were looking for, and the lecturers and the students got to see if they were interested in working on those projects as part of their own development. So there are things that we do to try and encourage you to build the capacity in your team and things, but it's very much down to you to build that team.
Just one thing to add. We're not expecting that you've hired everyone and you have a team in place with job titles. We expect to see a plan on how you'll make this happen if you get through to the next stage.
Yeah.
So if you're not a company by the time you're at exploration stage, we're not expecting you to hire people, but we're expecting you to talk about, this is what I'm going to do to get the skills around me that I need to deliver this.
And yeah, we definitely want to see applications from individuals. We've had fantastic individuals respond to our challenges previously, and they've delivered brilliant solutions. You can see some of them here today. So the other thing, in terms of all that information on our website, you'll see videos from the challenge sponsor, you'll see the challenge templates themselves, which are lots of information on there. I'd flag, look for what the outcomes that the challenge sponsors talk about are, and make a clear association between the solution you're proposing and how that's going to deliver on the outcomes that they've said they want to achieve. There'll be all sorts of other background policies, strategies, etc., which are relevant, but core is how does your solution deliver on the outcomes that challenge sponsors have said they want to see. So, oh, sorry, I'm standing in the way here as well. Scorecard. We publish our scorecard and also detailed explanations of our application forms. Oh, thanks. Sorry. Okay. So we, thanks. So we, if you want to see how things are weighted, how we score people when it comes to the initial SIFT, the exploration phase, etc., we use the same scorecard throughout, and that's published on the website, so have a look at that. As is a detailed explanation of our actual application form and what we are looking for under each section. So do look at that. Research. Do listen to what the challenge sponsors talk about in the videos and on the information in terms of relevant background and policies. Be aware of the previous attempts that they've made to solve the challenge and don't submit the same solutions. It's that kind of stuff, but you'll see there'll be, if you're not sure where to start, you'll see on the information published on the website them saying where they think you should start in terms of looking at that research. And lastly, your idea. At this stage, we're not looking for war and peace. We're not looking for a fully worked up solution. What we're looking for is a clear explanation of your idea for a solution and the core technical aspects of that. And as I said at the start, how you've got the skills and experience to deliver on that. Hopefully that provides a little bit of kind of our simple hints and tips on how to focus, but we're also available for more questions and things after. Now,
yeah, so now we're going to go through very quickly on some of the challenges, well, all of the challenges, but we don't have much time for it. So if you have any questions about them, please come and see either me or Barbara. We'll be happy to have a chat about them.
And what we have are, we've got the signs around the room highlighting each challenge area. If you're interested in a challenge area, particularly in chatting to other people that you might be interested in teaming up with, etc., we'd encourage you afterwards to hang around in the same spaces and just get chatting to people, really. So we start with anti-illicit trade.
The first one is from the Scottish Anti-Illicit Trade Group, which encompasses many organisations, but the three key organisations working on this will be Police Scotland, HMRC and Trade Standards Scotland. And this is about how can tech help stop illicit trading. It's a big challenge. I think the thing that I would point out about this challenge is that the big problem is not the obvious things that you would expect. So do your research, watch the video, because it's more than illegal cigarettes or illegal Nike shoes, or it's things that actually harm people's health and well-being that are being traded around, not only Scotland, around the world on illegal markets that people are not even aware that they're buying illicit products. So keep an eye out for that. Then how can we better connect people in places through public transport to address social isolation? So Glasgow is the biggest local authority in Scotland. They have a problem, which is their public transportation isn't catering to anyone, but they don't know what would cater to everyone. So the challenge is not so much about solving the public transportation per se, but it's actually helping Glasgow gather this information, how people move around in the city, to then use those insights to improve public transportation.
So the next one is Sterling. How can technology help us improve services by better understanding investment requirements for our public buildings? Stirling Council are really interested in creating a demand-led approach to how they're managing their capital assets. And where they want to start with this is housing. And I'll just give you a quick illustration that currently the service manager explained to me they are they do manual trawls of their data to look at who's reported, which properties have got maintenance issues, etc., reported on them. So it's down to an individual manual trawl to identify a property where there's been no maintenance reported on it, for example, for the last 4 years. Now, the point that this relates back to is their teams are picking up on these, and then they're going out and they're visiting these properties. But when they go and visit these properties, they're often meeting vulnerable people whose housing needs are just not being met or not being picked up because they don't have any way of joining up the demands that they need to fulfill with their housing and the assets that they've got on their registers. They're managing those assets through looking at what the regular maintenance requirements might be, but not looking at the kind of demand-led thing. It's very much about trying to create solutions for assets. Generally, with this challenge is set a challenge which is about how can they make all of the wealth of data that they've got be used more proactively and more accessible to their tenants in order to drive up the standards of the social housing that they're responsible for. And then we have, how can we use technology to enhance engagement with the outdoor environment in Scotland? We actually have Stuart Pritchard here this evening. Stuart, could you give me a wave so that, great. So Stuart's the challenge sponsor for the for this challenge, and the challenge is really about there's a huge opportunity when it comes to making use of the natural environment as a resource for improving people's mental health and well-being, particularly young people. But with young people very absorbed in devices and not necessarily having opportunities to engage in that environment, how can we actually use the technology that they're holding in their hand to benefit from those opportunities to improve their health and well-being? It's a really nice, really exciting, creative challenge there.
Then the NHS, National Services Scotland, is trying to do something a little bit exciting, in my opinion, which is the reuse of products for the NHS. So this could mean something as simple as crutches, for example. If you ever had a problem and you needed crutches, you will know that when you no longer needed them, you didn't know what to do with them. And if you did go to an hospital and return them, they don't do anything with them. So NSS and Highlands and Islands Enterprises are working on these refurbishment hubs for NHS products around Scotland. The challenge is about the tracking of these products. So we need to make sure that these products are refurbished and up to conditions before being reintegrated back into the NHS. So we need a strong tracking system for this. The other one on NHS NSS is about waiting times. How can we make NHS waiting time system more efficient and effective? So at the moment it's a process that is very manual. Beds and wardens in the NHS are being managed by one person or a group of people in the hospital. So can we use technologies to make this a bit smarter? And can we connect the different wardens, maybe the ambulances, all the encompassing systems on the NHS to make actually waiting times a lot better for everyone? And the next one from our own digital directorate, how can we improve monitoring of staff satisfaction, happiness and well-being? So to explain this challenge, I think you've all worked in organizations, and most of you will have worked in big organizations as well. And usually these organizations, to measure this kind of thing, they will send an annual questionnaire where you can fill in, and they will then assess your levels of happiness. There's also new products in the market. For example, if you went to an airport, they'll have the many faces there, and you can click about your experience. We want to do something above and beyond all of that. We want to do something that, for a manager at any given time, you can track the happiness of your staff, and you can look out for signs of things not been going so well. So we want to create a new product. We think that for this challenge, if it's cracked, it could be create commercial opportunity out of this, because it will be something that public sector in general is looking at.
The next one is, how can we use technology and data to improve the reach and quality of public engagement in the planning system? It's a bit of a mouthful, I know. I don't know if this is something you're aware of, but young people basically don't engage in the planning process, particularly the early stages of the planning process, so local plans, this sort of thing. And when you think about it, that's kind of really crazy, because the built environment that those local plans are planning for is their future. And the people that have most say on those local plans are often older and wealthier and have more time on their hands than the people that are younger and maybe have particular needs that they need expressed in those local plans. This challenge is really about, how do we get that better representation of engagement in those early stages in the planning system, and do that in some really creative ways that actually makes it fun, which when you say that in the context of engaging in most planning processes, I know some people would smirk at you. And continuing on the younger people theme, how can tech help young people manage their digital footprint? This challenge is being led by the 5 Rights Youth Leadership Group and supported by Young Scott. And really, it's all about the rights of young people and particularly their rights in the digital space. This is a really exciting challenge, actually, because it's genuinely led by the young people who have defined this as a challenge that they want to focus on. And it's all about the right to remove. So as expressed by the young people in the challenge video, people are going through their early stages of adolescence, posting all sorts of things, liking all sorts of things, registering on all sorts of different types of websites as they explore the digital world. And they have a right to manage that content that they have, the information that they have then posted. But just now there is no easy way of them doing that. Just now there is no way of them being able to engage through a tool that can support them in a way to be able to manage that digital footprint that they create. So that as they start their adult lives, they're able to take control of their information and the posts that they've made as they've been growing up. It's a big challenge. We're not under any illusions here. It's a huge challenge, but one that we feel is really worthwhile pursuing, particularly in the year of young people. So that concludes our run through of all of the challenges.
Any looming questions that you might have?
I have a question. All of these challenges, they seem to be, all fully digital. And the question is, would the kind of hardware solutions be accepted? So, like, some combination of both?
Yes. So the question is about digital versus hardware, and it's your idea. So if you think hardware makes sense for that challenge, we'll consider it.
And the second question is, I considered all of the challenges, and I'm probably going to apply for a couple. Would it be allowed?
Yeah, that's all right. So you can apply for one or many challenges, and you might get through one or many challenges. If you do, there might be a stage where we ask you to pick, because we don't expect you to deliver more than one. Cool.
We don't want to just make this about us talking all evening, so I think from here I'll hand over to Alan.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick run through what's happening next. A couple of things. First of all, so you're aware of who's in the room, can I ask everyone who's considering applying for CivTech to put your hands up right now? And keep your hand up and look around. Keep your hand up if you are potentially looking for someone to collaborate with on a challenge. If you're potentially looking for someone to collaborate with and apply jointly for a challenge with. Okay. Now can I ask you to put your hand up if you are thinking about applying for CivTech and you are technical, you're a software engineer or you've got a computer science background or something like that. Can I ask everyone to look around? Good. And the same again, except business, entrepreneurship. So look around as you're doing it, just so you can get a sense of who else is in the room. And finally, design and UX. User experience, sorry. Okay. So make the most of the time you've got remaining tonight, because it's one of the few opportunities you have to be in the same room as lots of other people who are applying.
Can I ask for another show of hands, actually, because we mentioned that we've got our alumni people here today, and they will give you a really good view from a company point of view of how to of what the CivTech process is like. Some of them are involved in the office hours, but some of them aren't. So would the CivTech alumni mind putting their hands up to say who they are, where they are? Hiding in the background. But yeah, do go and speak to them, find out what they're.
Sorry, which challenge sponsors are here this evening as well?
Stuart's the only challenge sponsor here from SNH, yeah.
So we have office hours scheduled next. One with, so basically it's an opportunity to get some one-to-one time with someone if you think about applying for the program. So we have Katie, who will be over here. Katie works for CivTech on the entrepreneurship side of things. And then we have 3 companies, Wallet Services, Replicate and Lumeria, who will be down there, who have all been on the CivTech program. So I'd really like everyone to just take 10 minutes with one of the companies or Katie who can give you a bit more of a background about the program. This is not feedback for your idea. This is just for you to get a sense of what was the process like if you're thinking about applying. And potentially for the companies who've been through it, what were their tips if they went through the program again? What would they do potentially differently? How would they engage differently? Or anything like that. So please take advantage of that before you head off. Otherwise, if you don't know quite where to go or who to speak to next, if you want to gravitate towards the topic areas that you find most interesting, and there's still somebody here, I'm not allowed to say it, really language. Yeah. So, yeah, cool. Thank you.
That's it, guys.
Thank you very much.